What's up everybody, welcome back to another SH Monsterarts review, and today we are reviewing the big girl herself, Shimo. Of all the SH Monsterarts figures that Bandai is doing for GXK, like this is the one. Granted, she's also the most expensive one. So now that this is here, and we're still waiting for the Haya Shimo, we gotta open this and take it out. Apparently this makes a really funny sound when you drop it out of the shipping box. So let's see if mine makes that funny noise. Well, I guess the answer is nope. No funny sound for my Shimo. Here she is. I'm very excited to get into this because this looks awesome. The box actually isn't as big as I thought. Like if you look at this is Godzilla's box. I haven't reviewed this figure yet, so I still have it in its shipping box. But to give you a sense of comparison, you're looking at about half the size of the Shimo box. Actually, 3/4. It's more like 3/4 of the Shimo box. We have our beautiful render of Shimo right here. The font is somewhat similar to Kong's font. Some logos here. Monsterverse logo. Bandai logo. Here's this side, here's this side, here's the bottom, here's the top, and here's the back. We have some other shots of Shimo here. We have some other work here, a bunch of Japanese work here. If you want to pause the video to read all that through, by all means, but I will highlight that this is to show you that the metal tooth headpiece for Kong is included as well. So let's get that box open. Let's take out Shimo. Let's see her in all her full glory. Real quick, if you look at the flaps here, there's additional instructions on the Kong headpiece, and then there's also a QR code and some other logos on this side. I don't know why. Wait, what? Why is there no instruction sheet? Yeah, I see no instruction sheet inside. They just put the Kong's headpiece on the flap instead. I guess that's one way to save paper. There's a lot to unpack here. Let me start off by saying I really overestimated her size. I don't know why. I saw her price tag and I saw the glams of her box, and I just thought, oh, she's gonna be a really big figure. Well, now that she's finally here and I'm actually looking at her with my own eyes and feeling the figure, yeah, she's smaller than I thought, so oops, my bad. Before we even talk about pricing, because we all know she is quite a pricey figure, there is a lot of things I want to say about this figure. So let me open up by saying I am 90% positive that Bandai got the concept art when they were first designing this figure, and you can say the same with all their other figures. So I am positive that this Shimo was designed based off the concept art. Some of the inaccuracies that people complained about this figure probably was cause they weren't there when the concept art was sent to the Bandai office. Concept art, it's a concept, it's an idea, it's not the final design. Some of the things that you may think, oh, it's missing, it's not movie accurate, well, it's probably due to the concept art not having in the first place. Now, contractually, they probably couldn't make any changes after the design, so they just had to stick with it, roll with it, and begin molding it and producing it, yeah, and do all the other stuff. So people are unfairly comparing this Shimo to the Haya Shimo, which I will say, just from looking at the images, I can say that the Haya Shimo is probably going to be more movie accurate, but then again, I don't have her yet at the time of this recording. And so I'm just gonna flat out say that it's not as bad as people are saying it is. If this was based entirely off the concept art, then that's actually a pretty solid design. They have some good texturing, they have some good coloring, and they have some good articulation. So basing this off the concept art, that's actually pretty solid. The Playmate Shimo are far from accurate too, and you don't see anyone complaining about those because those are children's toys. This is held to a higher standard simply because of its price tag and the quality of this figure. It's a collector's item if you really think about it. I understand what the collectors and the fans are saying, but I also understand Bandai's point of view. So I'm not really on anyone's side here. I'm kind of defending both sides. Coloring is done so well, and it's not because of the pure white color itself. It's actually because of the glossiness. There's some shine to it. Quite evidently, her dorsal plates, they are clean, transparent colors. Very nice. Now with the Playmates Shimo, they mainly only follow two colors, white, dark blue. In this case, That's the same thing. However, they chose a not so bright white and a much brighter blue, and I like that a lot. The dark blue wasn't bad on the Playmates Shimos, but looking at this one, the blue is more lighter and transparent, most important. What do you get if you combine those two together? Well, they contrast each other, and I think the colors stand out really, really well. Look at the glossiness on some of the skin here. Because of its rustic, rough scaliness, all those little crevices give space for the paint to just shine through, so it doesn't look flat out plain. A risk that white figures tend to fall is that they look very prototypey. They look incomplete. So the glossiness really just gives that extra finish, that extra shine on this figure, and I am all for it. Now the scaliness, yeah, you got pretty much a very detailed skin tone going on here. You can see when you look at the bottom, you know, it's very glossy and very smooth, as I mentioned. If you even look at the bottom of her feet, is also very smooth. But as you get to her side, and you look at the top, it's more ragged and it's more rough, as you can see. So there is a good contrast there. Smooth at the bottom, rough on the top. That's a good yin and yang balance going over there. And also, her claws. All 4 of her claws have a black paint job, and they are done very well. It's sharp, one tone of color, straightforward. It definitely stands out because you're contrasting white and black against each other, so very nice on their part. And looking at the dorsal plates, that is some insane detail there. Very, very nice. You can see how each plate gets bigger the closer it gets to her neck, and then it gets smaller, smaller, smaller throughout her back. And then you have these smaller pieces with the exception of these two, and yes, these are very pointy. They're not sharp, but they are pointy, so I would highly advise you to keep this figure away from children because these might hurt. The middle dorsal plates kind of just change to this one lane of dorsal plates that goes from the back here onto the tail, and it's just continuing until you get to the tip of the tail here, which has these 4 spikes, blades, I don't really know the correct term, and then at the very, very end, the pointy bit as a transparent blue piece. So that is very consistent. I mean, Playmates has been very good with keeping the dorsal plates one consistent color, but with SH Monsterarts figure here, well, it's also consistent, but also the dorsal plates are a little bit more well designed, a little bit more spread out. Instead of just one clunky big piece like the Playmates toys have, this is obviously more intricate, more detailed, so you definitely get something standing out there. I will say the tail really stands out for me. Each of the individual spikes has their own ball socket, so there is some very subtle bits of articulation there, so that's really nice, but they also look really clean. They're not one solid color. I very much prefer this transparent blue color. It just looks 10 out of 10 in my opinion. And then we look at her face. Well, this is probably where my criticisms are going to come in. This is where the figure kind of falls short in my opinion, because you can kind of tell that this is from the concept art when you look at the face. That is where it kind of feels prototypey, because if you look at the Hayat Shimo, she does have a pretty realistic face. This one looks very similar to a Playmates Shimo's head design. If you look at the way her eyes are, her mouth are, and then her crown, I like to call it, like the crown is pretty good. It also has that lighter transparent blue color scheme, so that's done really well. However, if you look at her face, I can't help but kind of compare her to the Playmates Shimo. Like, I'm looking at this and I think this is a Battle Roar Shimo. That's not good. I do agree with the criticism on this part. I do wish that the face was a little bit more realistic, you know? Give her some expression instead of just one plain white color with tiny eyes. I just feel like they could have done a little bit more. Like, you look at the Hayat Shimo, you can see facial expressions on her with the paint job. And I just wished it was the same here with this one. But other than that, I do like the dorsal plates up here as well, all the way up to the crown. Like, they pay attention to the details throughout the whole figure until you get to the face. If you remove the whole knowledge that this is taken from the concept art, just looking at this as a figure, as a product, I guess if you're a casual collector and you're not really really nitpicky with accuracy and all that, then honestly, it shouldn't bother you. There wasn't much for Bandai to work with. They have to obviously keep those colors. They can't just throw in some random additional colors, because that would be inaccurate. They did pretty well with what they have, with the resources they had. However, it's far from perfect. I do think, obviously, the face could be better, and, you know, it would be nice if this was a little bit more accurate to her movie design. Because obviously, with the price tag that comes with this, I do wish you get that better sense of satisfaction when you know you paid that copious amount of money for something that is like good quality. But not to say this is not good quality. This is obviously very good quality, but I'm just saying the design could be better. If you're paying that much money, I think you're gonna be expecting for the most accurate Shimo, the best representation of the Shimo you get from the movie, and I just can't really give that title to this. Other than that, I'm happy with her because she has good articulation. I've been dying to see what her prime articulation abilities are, because obviously the Playmates Shimos only offer so much. Also, I don't know if you can notice, there's a little bit of blue on her forehead. So let's tilt her head down a little bit. I don't know how well the camera can pick it up, but there's a little bit of contrast. There's like a tiny shading of blue there. I don't know if that's intentional or not. I would like to say it is just for some flair. Either that or it's a misprint. Let's start off with the head articulation. Normally I start with the legs and the arms, but Shimo's a different type of creature. So let's change up the order. So let's start off with the head here. So obviously we have her jaw articulation. I sometimes struggle with the Godzilla because his jaw piece is really tight for some reason, but for Shimo's case, I guess because she has a much bigger head and therefore has a bigger jaw, it's easier to fiddle around with it and open her, close her mouth. It doesn't close all the way like that, as you can see. I don't know if the tongue can move. Can the tongue move? Well, the tongue can kind of move. It's very stiff though, but I don't think it's meant to be moved so intensively like that. And then you have the main neck. Lots of ball sockets there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 points of articulation there, so you can really twist the head, move it up, move it down, have her look down, twist her head to the side like this. You know, if you want her to have a curious look, ooh, there you go. That's pretty expressive. Her main body has 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 ball sockets. Big ball sockets is obviously kind of stiff, but it's possible. You can move it. It's just really, really stiff. So just play with it for a bit, and then you can probably warm up the ball sockets within. And I guess that's important if you want her to be standing on 2 legs, which she doesn't do in the movie, but some of the promo pics have done that. Then you're gonna have to obviously warm up the joints in here so she can actually move. Also, I want to say there's a flap here. I don't know if you can see it. Let me point my finger right here. You can see this is a flap piece. So be careful. Don't try to bend this forward too much or you might end up snapping it off by accident. So there's a little fragile point there. So I will highly recommend you to really be careful there. But I think it's connected by a ball socket. Then let's look at her legs. So she obviously has 2 pairs of legs. So her front legs. All right, we got her standard ball socket movements on the knee. Very subtle movements on her feet, but it's possible. It's just, yeah, you can't really go so far with that. Mainly, all the articulation is going with her main legs. You can see folding up her knees like that. If you want her to be running, then there you go. You can do that. And then the same thing with this one as well. Again, ball socket is very stiff. Bend the knee, move the feet. Again, very subtle, very stiff, but is absolutely possible. And then her back legs, so her, oh, there you go. You can see, oh, there you go, there you go. You can see the ball sockets is starting to warm up now with her body, so there you go. If you don't want her to be slouching like this, just do that, and then move the legs down a little bit. And then you have a Shimo that's not so curled up. Articulation there, again, very stiff. But I just gotta warm it up a little bit. And we have knee articulation, this joint right here. And then we have, again, super subtle, super stiff articulation on her feet here. And then finally, articulation on this leg. Oh, this one's not that stiff. Okay, there you go. You can see there's some movement there. And then we got a ball socket. You can sort of twist her leg like this, that's good. And then ball socket on the feet as well. So there's already more range of articulation on her legs on this one than the Playmates one, quite evidently. It's just stiff. Warm up the joints, you'll be fine. I was hoping her tail would be like Godzilla's, where every single point has a ball socket in them. And luckily, they won with that, because the Playmates Shimos, the tails is one piece, one ball socket. You can't really move it well. Thank God the tail here is literally the same as the SH Monsterarts Godzilla's. Main ball socket in here. Then you have a ball socket here. So it's very, again, it's just stiff, but you can see you can stretch the tail all the way out like this. Obviously, it's great for stop motion capture, great for photography, and of course, great for playability. I know how expensive these figures are, but you gotta admit, with all this articulation, you can't help but play with it sometimes. So there is playability value to this. The spikes in her tail have their own ball sockets, so you can kind of customize how you want that tail to look. Maybe I'm just gonna do this, have them open up like this, kind of like an X. Don't expect one-to-one accuracy of this, obviously, but as I've shown you earlier, there's so much articulation to this. If this wasn't so expensive, I think people wouldn't hate on it as much, just to be completely blunt. So great articulation, almost perfect visual design. Now this brings me to my next point, and of course, to do that, it's time to do some comparing. Remember, Shimo is quite a big titan. Evidently, she's bigger than Godzilla. Just to give you an idea, here's Scar King. You may think, oh yeah, Shimo does look bigger than him as expected, but if you saw the review on this guy, you will know that, well, this Scar King is an absolute beast. He is taller than Kong, and looks like he can go on par with Godzilla, which is clearly not what he is in the movie. And this is where I'll say Bandai screwed up, because they probably got the concept art for Scar King, and then I guess the whole narrative of Scar King changed before they put him in the actual movie. So if you want Scar King to be riding Shimo, I don't think this is the right one, surprisingly. Like, obviously he rides her in the movie, but where exactly are you going to put him? Obviously there's the spikes here, so he's gonna be stabbing his feet if he's riding her. So the best place is probably right here in between her neck. This figure is too big. The Scar King is way too big. It doesn't fit. And remember, he stands on her back. He doesn't actually sit on her. He doesn't ride her like a horse. He kind of surfs Shimo, not exactly saddle. The Scar King here isn't really gonna work out. I'm just gonna say that right now. This wasn't really my favorite Scar King. Like, I was a little bit disappointed when I got this. I was hoping for so much better with the Scar King, and scaling already messed everything up. He's bigger than Kong, he's bigger than Godzilla, and he looks like he's like almost on par with this Shimo here. So I would actually say, get the Playmate Scar King. Yeah, this looks better. Obviously, two different companies. The quality is night and day with these two. This is a children's toy, obviously. But if you really want that scale accuracy, well, I think this Scar King is the one. Like, it looks fitting. It looks more believable. Remember how I said I thought she would be bigger than Giant Shimo? Well, here's Giant Shimo. And as you can quite evidently see, that's not really the case. But I would say she's like in between the Battle Roar Shimo and the Giant Shimo. But while we have these guys out for comparison, look at the difference in the dorsal plates. Playmates went with the dark blue and the whole clunky piece just strapped on her back. While obviously Bandai, with a much higher budget, actually took some time to put the accurate designs on her dorsal plates and made them transparent blue. So yeah, the face design definitely could have used some work. Now I would really love to compare her to my SH Monsterarts Ghidorah, but if you own the SH Monsterarts Ghidorah, whether it's the old or the gold version, you know it's a very inconvenient figure to handle, and I'm gonna save myself the hassle as much as I want to. I can tell right now this Ghidorah is not going to be fitting on this table. So I can just straight up tell you that she is not bigger than Ghidorah. She's going to be smaller than Ghidorah, but that shouldn't come as a surprise. But I will compare her to Mecha G here. Shimo is bigger than Mecha. And last but definitely not the least, of course, we have to compare him with Godzilla and Kong here. So here's Kong. Here's Godzilla. This is the comparison I've been anticipating. Because unlike Scar King, these two are very scale accurate, and Shimo looks accurate if you put her next to these two. If you want to recreate the final scene where Kong goes back to the Hollow Earth, riding Shimo and Zuko standing on the shoulder, make sure Kong is secure on her back, and obviously have the Zuko figure, which I don't have yet, so this is the best you're gonna get for now. Putting these two side by side, this definitely looks more believable. And then Godzilla, obviously this is the face-off. Very accurate, that looks like it. And speaking of Kong, it's time to look at the metal tooth headpiece. So, of course, if you buy this Shimo, this is also included. So this is Kong with the metal tooth. It's not that obvious. As you can see, the camera is actually having trouble focusing on the metal tooth. That's his neutral expression. If you want him roaring with that metal tooth, you're gonna have to wait for the Mothra and Zuko set. They really took apart Kong and spread out his elements throughout these other figures. And the fact that you pay 330 Canadian dollars to get this headpiece is kind of crazy. We're gonna put this headpiece on the Kong figure just to do the demo. Let's decapitate him. Stick this one on. There you go. It looks all right. I think the roaring face is obviously going to look better. It's not bad. I don't know, to me it seems a little off. In terms of your Build-A-Kong, yeah, it's getting there. But is this necessary? Absolutely not. I think this is a side thing. Get this thing for the Shimo figure, not this. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. The price. This thing is obviously very expensive. It's almost the same cost as the Ghidorah actually, meaning not everyone can afford this. So I completely understand the main critique is this thing's too expensive for something that's not entirely accurate to the lore design, to the movie design. Highest Shimo is the way to go if you want affordability and the most accurate representation of Shimo. But let's reiterate, Bandai worked with the concept art. So that's why there are some things lacking here. Compare that to the highest Shimo. Just looking at this, yeah, it's not 100% accurate. Obviously the face looks like a slightly advanced version of a Playmate Shimo. Out of 10, I'll probably give it a 8 out of 10. Like, I'm happy with this figure though, that's the thing. It didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth, unlike Scar King. It's just way too expensive for a lot of people. And that's totally understandable. If you really like collecting Godzilla figures, and if you really like Shimo, Shimo's a fan favorite. So yeah, if you can afford it, go for it. But obviously if you can't, obviously save your money for the highest Shimo. You're looking around 60, 70 Canadian dollars there. Obviously it's a lot more affordable. I'm getting this Shimo for the sake of this Shimo. I got that Scar King with the Beast Glove add-on in mind and the forefront of my mind. I got the Shimo with the Shimo at the forefront of my mind, not the headpiece. You see where I'm getting at here? But if you're going to get this just for that metal tooth piece, I don't think that's worth it. Thank you so much for watching this review. Let me know what you think of this Shimo. And of course, don't you worry, I will be getting the highest Shimo, and eventually when the Mothra Zuko set drops, I will finish my Build-A-Kong. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel for more, and turn on that bell so when that highest Shimo review drops, you will be notified. And let me know what you guys think of this Shimo from SH Monsterarts. Thank you for watching, and we'll see y'all in the next video.